Good morning. Welcome, everybody. It is the Tuesday edition of Talkback, brought to you by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road. More guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula, Montana's premier firearms dealer. Knife River Residential have them. Their business for over 100 years. Shop online for free next-day delivery. Missoula Nissan Hyundai. Drive the adventure. Avenue West. Hey, welcome, everybody. It is Talkback. That's John King. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Peter.
And we have a special guest waiting to visit with us on the phone about net neutrality.
Yes, we have Christie McNally on the line, and I'm holding out a glimmer of hope that she can explain net neutrality for Peter, who struggles with this Sisyphean effort to get this rock up the hill.
I'm hip.
She is the executive director of a group called Free Our Internet, and welcome to the program, Christie Lee.
Well, thank you for having me, and don't feel bad. You're like 98% of the population when it comes to net neutrality.
You mean
I think unless you're a techie, you pretty much are you're in the good company with everybody else.
So in other words, I'm mildly normal.
Yes.
You eat Tide Pods just like everybody else.
All right.
So, Christie Lee, give us what's your best explanation for what net neutrality is, I guess, was, or now is kind of for certain sectors of Montana government. It gets kind of complicated.
Well, it does get kind of complicated, and it's really not just net neutrality. It was a whole, people kind of drafted down to net neutrality, but what it was is it was the Title II classification of the Internet, which basically meant the Internet was a public utility. And that meant that the Internet was controlled by the government. So there were a couple of prongs. You had, the net neutrality part, which meant that ISPs could not charge end users, such as Google or Netflix or, those content providers, more for using more of the bandwidth. The other part of it was that if you wanted to expand your broadband, you would have to jump through, you had to go through all these hoops and new regulations, and, you had to go through the government first before you could do any expansion of the Internet, like in your state or, across the country. So those are the two aspects of the Title II classification.
And when you talk about Title II, is this minty fresh laws that are fresh on the books? The ink is just barely dried, or have they been simmering and festering for a while in the back pages?
No. Actually, the Title II classification itself, the public utility was drafted back in the 1930s. Back when, the Internet wasn't even, a glimmer in anybody's eye. And it was really drafted for like the telephone companies and those kind of things.
Now, Peter remembers this.
You sure do.
You got to catch him up a little bit.
Dang straight.
Yeah, and you remember paying the long distance fees, and I remember being in college and paying $200 in long distance fees to my boyfriend.
Forget that. I want my party line back. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do remember those too. If you said that now, most people would look at you with three heads. But so yes, the rules for the Title II classification were drafted and created back in the 1930s and 40s, and so it's very difficult to apply those to something like the Internet. So, and with the Commissioner Pai rolling back those and see what we saw with the Title II classification is a drop in, internet service being in the rural areas and internet. It dropped 14% in the first year, and then another 14% in the second year. And that's where the problem comes in.
So in 2015 and 2016, or
right.
2016
you saw
and
a drop
2016.
in expansion.
And that was the expansion into areas like rural Montana.
Right, and rural Maine, where I am from.
We're more rural than you. Are
we going to play that game?
Yeah, let's go.
I can play that game. When I go up to northern Maine, I get Canadian phone, so can you say that?
Yeah, we have a border here too. There's no one patrolling it. You can just walk across.
And right outside my living room window, I have one herd of whitetails and one herd of mule deer.
I ride a mule deer to work uphill both ways.
I see moose all the time.
Okay. You win. Go ahead.
But that's where I saw that your governor was trying to he put the net neutrality rules back in place, and I think that is very unfortunate for the people of Montana, because I have spoken to many people here in Maine over the past few months, and a lot of the small, the rural providers are small telecom companies. They aren't your, Verizons or your Comcasts or your Spectrums. They're the small, I call them mom and pop, because here in Maine, they are family-owned companies. And they stopped expanding because they couldn't afford to pay the lawyers' fees to figure out what the new regulations were.
Wow.
And when they, heard that the Title II classification was going to be repealed, they were very excited, because that meant that they could start expanding again into those areas that didn't have, the service providers, and they were ready to go. They just couldn't afford it before, but now they're ready to go. They're ready to expand out into, up into northern Maine, where they still have dial-up. And so for you guys in Montana, that for those people that were ready to go because of the repeal, your governor just stopped all of that. Those are new jobs. Those are, for the small business owners in the rural areas, that would make their businesses easier to use. So he's really putting those people at a disadvantage.
I just want to put you at a disadvantage here with the facts. So Montana is 4 times larger than your state, and you have more people. So technically, I think we're more rural.
All right. Now, tell you what, we're up against our first break, Christie Lee. So if you don't mind,
okay.
When we come back, would you help us out by just explaining what was wrong with the internet in the first place that President Obama decided to do this, and what was it that made the internet so wildly successful without government regulation? So we'll talk about that when we come back. All right. By the way, we have 3 lines open. If you want to visit with Christie Lee McNally, give us a call, 721-1290. We will be right back.
Be sure to call Canadian. Oh, she can't hear. Or we can't hear her.
I can hear you. I heard Canadian. Yeah, but do you actually drive up in that area? See, I drive up in that area. So,
I was there this summer. It's not easy to get there by accident. Like I said, our state's the size of Germany.
Yeah, it is.
So
it's big.
Getting up from here, we're in the middle of it, and it's still about a 3-hour drive to get to the border.
For me, it's a 5-hour drive, and I get like this, on my phone, I get a welcome to Canada, and I'm like, no, I'm actually still in Maine.
Yeah.
You just carry loonies and toonies with you wherever you go. No one knows what loonies and toonies are?
Sure, that's money.
No.
Money.
That's Canadian money. Which gets circulated here like it's American money.
I don't actually go to Canada. I'm afraid they won't let me back into the United States. So
you can put Canadian quarters in our soda machines and they work.
Really?
Yep.
I've never.
Seriously?
I know. Back in the day when I used to try to do it, we couldn't do it. Because we have a lot of Canadian money here.
We're either super high tech or low tech, but I know I've paid with Canadian money at stores and stuff before.
Well, at stores we can do it, but on the soda machines I haven't been able to. Because here in Maine we get a lot of They come down from Quebec in the summer.
We're on
I live on the coast.
I might be wrong on the soda machines now.
20 seconds. Here we go. And we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Christie Lee McNally joining us, ex-director of Free Our Internet. And the question I asked you, Christie Lee, what was it about the Internet that just made it so wildly, I mean, unbelievably successful from the time it was first introduced until President Obama decided to put the brakes on things?
I would say it's still successful.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, it just absolutely took over everything. So why did they feel the need to slap some controls on it?
Well, I think for a couple of reasons. I think you had your edge providers, which was Google, Facebook, and Twitter, who all had at the ear of President Obama. Google especially was a revolving door between Google and the White House. There are over 238 employees that went from Google to the White House. And the edge providers, interestingly enough, the edge providers such as Google, Twitter, and Facebook, they are not covered by any of this quote-unquote net neutrality stuff. They are allowed to do whatever they like.
Surprise! Yeah, so it's when you talk about, to explain that, why they aren't, it's not like they're excluded. It's because they're edge providers. So who exactly is controlled by the Title II under the net neutrality?
So the internet service providers. So that would be your Comcast, that would be your Spectrums, that would be the people who actually give you the internet.
Now let me ask you this.
You pay for the internet.
So there's a movement obviously against the utility monitoring of the internet. But if you don't have any kind of monitoring, or you have looser monitoring, do you have the potential of these companies taking advantage of the public, making a big dime on our suffering, or squashing resources or access in ways that are perhaps not the best for the American people? Because that's really what's behind the fear of a lot of people these days.
Well, it's the electronic version of what they used to call clear cutting in the lumber era.
Well, here's one of the big misnomers and one of the biggest things that I point out. So when the people who are, the proponents of, the repeal, they were saying that, the internet providers would, package and say, you have to pay $99 to get $9.99 for your email, and $14.99 to get on Facebook, and, $12.99 to do this. Well, let's be clear. They could do that under the Title II and the net neutrality rules. They have competition, regardless of what, Google and Facebook and all of those guys are trying to say. There is competition out there. There are definitely ways to get your internet. So they are not going to do anything that's going to hurt their bottom dollar.
Well, at the same time,
you didn't see those packages. You didn't see those packages during 2015 and 2016 when they could have done it, and they didn't do it. The other thing is that they talk about the throttling and the blocking. Here's my question to you: if Netflix is using more of the bandwidth to stream their their content, don't you think that Netflix should pay more to use the internet service provider?
I personally do, but there's a lot that don't, because they like free or cheaper Netflix. Because if you do throttle them, then you're going to have more expensive Netflix, and many college students will have no life.
I understand that, but the last I knew, internet and Netflix was not a right.
Let me ask you this. So there is a model, and you can find it at most fast food restaurants, You go in and you want to get a hamburger. All right, you want to add bacon for $1. Now, for me, this is offensive. You should just put the bacon on the hamburger. Well, my sister,
we're going to Burger King now, right?
My sister doesn't like bacon. So having to pay an extra $1 or having that money soaked into the original price of the burger is not such a big is a setback for her. In the same way, the internet, it seems to me, it would be easier or cheaper for many people that don't go and watch Netflix or use video or use Facebook necessarily, to be able to buy a cheaper version of the internet that they could tool around on and just read, I don't know, Drudge Report or whatever text sites they want to go to.
I agree with you 100%, but the net neutrality doesn't allow, like that's where you run into the problem, is because that's what people don't want. They want the same thing for everybody. They want socialism for the internet. And that is the problem, except for Google, Facebook, and Twitter. They don't want the same rules to apply because they censor, they block, and they throttle. They do it all the time.
Now let me ask you this. After Ajit Pai's removal of net neutrality, have we seen any shifts in the marketplace from the ISPs or from the edge providers because of Title II being removed? Or is everything pretty much the same? Because on the user experience side of things, it feels exactly the same as it did last year.
Right, and what we've actually seen is from the ISPs, we've seen Verizon has said that they are going to start putting 4G into 11 residential markets, which is not, it's not their norm. They usually do phone markets. So they are going into 11 residential markets by the end of next year, which is new growth, which is more competition. So yes, you will see at the end of next year, the user will see some growth because they will have another provider that they can go to, and it will be 4G, and it will be in those rural areas such as Montana or Maine or, whatever other state, South Dakota or other states. So you will start seeing more competition and more availability in the areas where you didn't see it before. As far to do their throttling and their censoring, they haven't changed their practices. They've talked about, changing their practices, but Google, they're in a fight with Amazon right now. You can't get YouTube if you own a Fire TV thing at home to stream. You can no longer, because they're fighting with Amazon, you can no longer use YouTube on your Fire TV.
Oh, really?
So they haven't changed their practices.
So it sounds to me like do you want to apply Title II to edge providers? Do you want to extend
no,
the regulations?
What I'm doing is I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of the edge providers, because they're the ones who are pushing, and they're the ones who are saying, oh, it's not fair, it's not fair. But they're the ones who are the biggest, they're the bad guy in all of this. They're the ones who do it the most. And if you go to, my blog, you can see all of the incidences where they have done that. They censor, they block, they throttle. They do all the things that they don't want the ISPs to do, but they themselves do it daily to numerous amounts of people.
I noticed the throttling because I put selfies up all the time and no one likes them. It's clearly happening.
Well, obviously
well, if it's on Facebook, that's because they've changed it now, and and they pick and choose who gets to see what's on your feed instead of you getting to pick and choose what's on your feed.
Or they could just be showing really good taste. So, Christie Lee, hang on. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Okay. I mean, and that could be too. Your friends could have.
I never get to throw a zinger at John. He always throws the zingers at me. So I had to
open the floodgates for those zingers.
They could have snoozed you. Yeah. I wish I could tell if I've been snoozed.
If you've been what?
Snoozed. You can snooze people now instead of unfollowing them on Facebook, you can just snooze them for like 30 days.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Now, when you snooze somebody, Which, I don't know, do you need to
is that an
get
official
court
Facebook
approval
term?
for that?
Is that an official Facebook term or what?
Yeah, it's an official. Yeah, because Milo, actually, this is crazy, but so if you follow Milo, if he shows up in your feed and you click like, it will actually suggest that you snooze Milo for 30 days.
Wow. Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they've picked people that they want snoozed.
Yes, they do.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because they know if they closed his account or put him into Facebook, jail for 30 days, he would throw a fit. So it's easier for them to suggest him being snoozed.
Oh, and of course it's all virtual, obviously, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And he's been
that's a new feature.
He's been, I don't know, blocked from my consciousness ever since he got in trouble, for kind of defending or talking about sexual abuse of children and that.
No, I hear you. I hear you on that one.
We have a caller.
But Facebook still shouldn't be picking the winners and the losers and who people want to follow, because people still like Milo, and just because you and I don't, I mean, I like Ben Shapiro. If they did that to Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh, I would be very upset.
And my daughter loves Ben Shapiro. She discovered him.
The sun sets and rises on my son. If I disagree with Ben on anything, I am wrong, not Ben.
She spent 2 years in London as a traveling nurse and actually discovered him over there.
Huh.
And has been.
She knows he's married with kids. Right?
Yeah, I do know that.
Believe. Yeah.
So,
have you seen him playing the violin as a kid?
No. Stand by.
No.
He's actually pretty
I'm
good.
going to CPAC,
He was on David
I'm hoping
Letterman
I get to run into him.
When he was like 5.
Yeah, we do have a caller
I'll
named
have to look
Harry
that
who's
up.
coming up next.
Okay.
And we have 3 minutes left in our time together. So
Okay.
here we go. Stand by.
Ooh, this Justin's question.
Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Christie Lee McNally. We have a Facebook comment. Go.
Real quick, Christie Lee, do you know if cellular companies are treated like utilities? Justin wants to know.
I think they do end up falling under some parts of the utility, but not quite like the Title II. I believe it's a different title.
All right, thank you.
But don't quote me. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on that.
Okay,
but they do have some restrictions.
Let's get Harry on. We have about a minute and a half. Harry, what's up?
Yeah, good morning. I'm neutral on this. Myself, I don't. Whatever to put on it, but they won't do it. Wasn't doing it anyhow because it isn't a good market idea, or whatever it is. They weren't doing it. But this other group, they are doing it, but they're being hypocrites. Well, if it's not a good market thing for one group, how come it's a good market for the other? I mean,
Are you comparing her edge provider discussion with her ISP discussion?
I was talking about the pack. I was talking about the packaging. I was talking about the $9.99 and the $14.99. I was talking about the packaging. When I'm talking about the hypocrisy, I'm talking about the censoring, the blocking, and the throttling.
Yeah. So the other side, now that they don't have the two, they can start doing that though.
What do you think about ISPs doing those things, Christie Lee?
The thing is, the consumer at this point, the way they are, they would either, and we've seen it happen. They get, the consumer is a savvy consumer these days, and they will either change their provider if they try to do that, or they will put up a stink and they will file with the now it falls under the FTC, and the FTC will go after them. And we've seen the FTC go after, companies that are, that have done things in the past. So if the ISPs do end up trying to do that, which at this point I think this consumer is too savvy for them to try to do that, and I just don't see them doing it.
Harry, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it. Hey, listen, we have less than a minute left. So if folks want to get more information about what you do, you said you have a blog. So whereabouts do we find it?
So you can go to freeourinternet.org, And then we have a Facebook page, which I put articles up every day. I try to put 2 to 3 articles up to educate people. And then on Twitter, we're on Twitter. So freeourinternet.org.
All right, we'll let you go cow tip those Canadian cows.
I'm not in Vermont. I'm in Maine.
Be careful of the moose.
We eat lobster.
Yeah. Beware the moose. All right.
Yes, I will.
Thanks,
Thank you for having
Christie.
me.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come right back. We have another hour with open phones coming up. She was cute.
Yeah. All right. So what were you trying to get me looked at? I know
Oh, it was the video was Kitty Wumpus, but it's fine now.
it usually happens at the start.
I refreshed it.
How's everybody online today? Are you tired of the matches that never turn into dates?
I'm tired of the matches that never light.
And you just say, "Come on, baby, light my fire."
Yeah, I'm going to go to Missoula Rural Fire at, I think, 1 o'clock this afternoon. They have some big announcement they're doing. But they have increased their insurance. They've gotten better, so they have increased now the amount of insurance that you can actually be farther away from their thing, and you won't have to pay more for insurance. I don't know what.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, and I also have a talk with Sandra Yee Barker.
Oh,
about a guy who's wanted.
I was thinking about calling her about the jail, the warden being removed.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard the FBI was investigating that situation. I always, whenever they do the wear this color thing, the wear this color movements, I'm always worried that, like, I'm going to get wrapped up as a member of some kind of movement that I didn't really sign on to. Memo, your call. Missoula Rises thing is good, or you could read that. What do you want to do?
I want to look into this first.
Okay.
Let's do Missoula Rises. Because I was there for that. I really want to talk to these people. I really want to talk to whoever the War II representative.
Is it those people or just that one guy?
Well, if I can find out, he didn't leave his phone number. But see, he might be in the book. So,
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously an elderly guy, and those are usually ones in the phone book.
The first 5 pages are all dedicated to you, Peter.
Tell me about it, brother.
I think Ward 2 is the one where they keep having rotating members because no one wants to stay.
Could be. Ellsworth. Hmm. Hey, welcome back to Talkback, brought to you this morning by Selway Armory, Knife River Residential, Missoula Nissan Hyundai, Missoula's Office City, and by Farside Signs. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm Peter Christian. That is John King.
Yeah, and we have open phones, so feel free to join in. 721-1290 is the number. We already have someone trying to get in. We have Marilyn on the line.
Someone who is wise to our open phone ways. So she goes, let me get in first. So there she goes. Good morning, Marilyn. What's up?
Good morning. So I was hoping I could ask the young lady a question, but and I don't want anything to do with any of that stuff. But what I see here is, it's an Agenda 21 thing. And Bullock is a globalist. He's a leftist. And they want to control us and the population in Montana. They want Montana turned into a park. And so for him to shut that net, or to, we want net neutrality, and pretending it's about whatever else. It's about not letting people have jobs in the rural areas through the internet and actually live out there. They're forced into the cities, which is what the leftists want, the globalists want, Agenda 21.
So you're saying net neutrality is all about Agenda 21? Is that you're putting those two together?
I'm putting those two together. It may not be all about that.
Okay.
They want to regulate. They want to control. They want, how they've shut the jobs down all in Montana. People can barely live. I mean, that's, the poverty is there. And so that's what I think it's about.
So,
well, I know you went to a meeting last night discussing policing. Now, this is one of these things that got a lot of people on the internet upset.
yes.
Because there was kind of a concerted effort not to have members from the police department
Yes.
on the speaker list.
Right.
The topic of the meeting was police, who do they protect? Right. Or something along those lines. And I guess I was hoping you could give us a little bit of a recap of what you heard.
The title was, the actual discussion was called the cops, who do they police, who do they protect? Okay? And so I made a promise that I would go to that, even though it was a little past my bedtime. You know what I mean? But I went, and there was like a 45-minute panel discussion. There were 4 individuals who spoke. Each of them spoke about, a little less than 10 minutes and said their piece. And so I was able to record. Well, actually, I recorded the whole thing, and I put the entire discussion up on our website as part of a YouTube video. So if you would like to know the complete unedited story of what these folks said, you can listen to it at your leisure when you have 45 minutes to go listen to it, and you will know exactly where they're coming from. So there you go.
Well, did you find yourself, did you learn anything? Did it change your perspective?
Well, let's put it this way. It really is. I think it's healthy to step into the shoes of somebody else and see what they think and why they think what they think and how they live and the struggles that they have and that sort of thing, because we get so wrapped up with our own little lives that we very seldom think about, what people that you ordinarily wouldn't have much to do with because they're not part of your social circle, or, they're not part of your family or your job or whatever. But I think it's really healthy to take a look at how other people see the world. Okay. Now, you may not agree with it. You may not think it's, correct, but at least you know how they feel and how they think.
So what was the answer?
The answer to what?
The question, who do they protect?
Well, the police are there to, and one of the people who spoke said, police are there to not protect the people, but to protect the law. Okay.
I do have that sample in the list here, if you want.
Okay. So is this Meg? Yeah, this is Meg. Meg Singer is with the ACLU Montana, and she is a Native American woman, and she kind of gave a history from her perspective as to how our society came about and how our policing came about and how it affects us today.
So for the history version, that's the longer. That's part 2.2.
Okay, all right. So let's see. Okay.
Police 2.2.
So that's the one you want. Police 2.2.
That's the one you just led into.
So here we go. This is what she had to say last night at the Missoula Rises. Actually, you know what? This is 3 minutes long. We're up against a break. I don't want to interrupt this because I'd have to stop at the middle. So we'll take a quick break, come back, and we'll play this. And that way you can hear what I heard last night. And you can agree or disagree, but we'd love to have your comments at 721-1290.
So the 2.2 is kind of like her history.
Right.
And then the 2.1 is like her summary, I think.
Okay.
Who would police protect?
Right. Well, what I have here is I have 2.2 and I have Police 3 with Dustin Monroe. And here it is, 2.1. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. So I can start with that one if you think it would make more sense.
Nope, you led it into it the other way, so we'll go that way.
All right.
I kind of put them in there because one is shorter, just in case we want to just do the little hit there. It's kind of interesting to be able to watch us. Can you imagine watching like the news this way?
Yeah.
Like the nightly news.
Yeah.
Because so much of it's shopped.
Right.
You get the feeling like they're on point for 2 minutes and then they like, blah. I think my perspective of that is because, you see the blooper reels from the news.
Right.
When they're off camera, it's like beep, beep, beep.
You ever seen Bill O'Reilly off camera?
A little bit. I've seen some of his tantrums.
It is not pretty.
Yeah,
it is not pretty at all.
Yeah, exactly. My point.
Right. But of course, we're always pretty.
Wow.
Surprise! Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Again, just kind of recapping, I had the opportunity to go to Missoula Rise's presentation last night. It was called Cops. Who do they police? Who do they protect? There was 4 people on the panel. And this is Meg Singer, and she kind of gives a little bit of a history from her perspective as to where law and order that we know now.
She's from a Navajo tribe.
Yes, from a Navajo tribe. She is with the Montana ACLU. So here we go.
A lot of the work that I do across the state of Montana has to do European settlers. So back in the day, I don't know if you guys know this, but Europeans weren't on this continent. They came here because the systems of Europe were so terrible that it was either stay and die or flee and die and try to colonize the world, right? So with that colonization pushed this idea of law and order. So it's really important to know that before European contact, there were several thousands, hundreds of thousands of different tribes, different bands, the idea of what we call nations here, who had their own traditional forms of governance, their own traditional forms of how do you have a society when there's so many individuals, right? So that's the idea of law and order, where law and order comes in. You have this consensus of society, you have this social hierarchy, you have people on the top who are making sure that the people on the bottom are in line with our social mores and norms. So when police are what they're protecting the law. They're not protecting us, they're protecting the law. We create law that is supposed to protect people. We create law that's supposed to protect land, assets, capital. But it comes down to law. It doesn't come down to the humanity of you deserve to be safe because we are in this society together. So as that system of policing, of that system of law and order took its hold in the Americas, something came over a few groups of people. So for example, indigenous people under the law were savages. They were redskins. They were problems that literally had to be controlled through the use of the United States military. For Black people, they were 3/5 of a person under the law. For LGBT people, perverts under the law. For immigrants now, for terrorists, for Muslims, there is a pattern here on what law and order actually means. The system that was created, that was pushed from that European idea of unfairness because they didn't have access to that power, was created here. And that's why we come up with these ideas of minorities. Basically, they're people that do not fit into the system. No matter how hard you try, they literally do not fit in the system because, as we know, all men aren't created equal under the law because the law was not created equally for these people.
All right. So there's a quick, obviously didn't have the whole 15-minute discussion here because we only have so much time on Talkback.
Sure,
but that's a little bit of the tenor of what she was saying. One of the things that stuck out to me when she was talking here was this distinction between protecting the law and protecting people. And although it sounds really good, there is kind of a vacuum of a counterexample, right? We know what laws that are written down look like, but I get the feeling that there's kind of a romanticism of the American Indian style of government, of justice pre-Columbus.
Right.
You know, just like I assume, like every other society, that the winners were the strong and the powerful, and that it was a bunch of many dictatorships, basically, just like most human groups end up having, where you have the leader or the family that's most powerful takes charge, and they seem to benefit more from the customs and the law. One of the benefits, it seems to me, of the justice system that we do have is it's not always perfect. In fact, it's often flawed. But the principle that justice is blind if you ever see the blind lady holding a sword and holding,
right,
the scales,
the scales, right? Yeah.
You get at least a desire from the public that justice treats the king the same that he would treat the lowest person. Now we know after watching Hillary and Donald for the last 2 years that it's not always that way.
Right.
But there is, I think, a desire from all of us that the law be equally applied. And if the law and justice are looking at you as a person, I think you do run the risk of privilege being granted to those that are powerful. And I don't know. So I guess I kind of
let's put this
that in there.
Let's put this one of the panelists, as a matter of fact, Dustin Monroe. The question was asked of him. Well, who does the law protect? And he said,
I have that clip. Yeah. I have that clip. If you
want
you
do? Okay. Let's get that.
That's 3.
All right, stand by. Here it is. Okay, this is Dustin Monroe. Here we go.
The entry point is the police officer, because that police officer, he has different things that he can write up, right? He can write that ticket to a different thing, right? If the crime is a crime and you're doing the crime, you do the time, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I got friends that are cops, so we went to high school. They're good friends. I did crimes, and I'm guilty. But at the same time, I didn't do some of the crimes that I got charged with and I got on my record. But those same crimes, I can't get certain jobs. When I was on probation, I couldn't even get housing. No place would rent to me around here. No place that I'd want my family to live. To make it hard on me. And so I had to go through all this while finding jobs and doing like whatever I could to survive, because you can't drive either and you can't get in a car with anybody, because when you do those things, you get written up and you get thrown back in. And if you have a job, you lost your job. And it's already hard going to somebody for employment, because in this state, there is no other box. They make you check if you did a crime in this state, even if you did a misdemeanor. And so I had to deal with that. And then you have to go to group. And your group, you're way the hell over here. You got no car. You live way on the other side town. We got winter. Or you got to go do a UA. And the probation officer, it used to be way over there at the jail. And so you had to go, I live at the university. I'm supposed to get all the way over there on a bus, 8 in the morning, Saturday, Sunday, whenever they call you in. You got to get there. And that's how it works. But where it all starts back is it starts back at that police officer that arrested you. And that's one of the things I want to share, because it's important. Who's being policed? I say it's classism. It's the poor. We know what sides are poor here in Missoula. We know where the cops go. They put it in the newspaper. They try to shame you. So who's being policed?
I feel like I'm heavily policed. If I drive out of Linda Vista area, coming down, I almost always see a police car. In fact, I've been pulled over by a police car right out by Walmart. It's very common on my side of town, but I don't consider that like a low. I mean, the local school in the area, Cold Springs, it is not considered to have enough kids below the poverty line to receive a lot of the extra funding and treatment that some of the other schools in town do. So I wouldn't consider it like a low wage area.
Right.
But yet I see police officers every day, or almost every day. It's not like I don't have the perspective. I've lived in very low rent areas of town off of 39th. If you go up over the hill, there's a bunch of apartment complexes on both sides there.
Right.
And that's where I used to live. And I believe I saw less police at that time. But, if you live on the north side, maybe that's a different story. Maybe you see it more often. But it also could be just a perspective thing. I feel like a lot of people see what they're looking for. If you're looking for the dark hand of the Illuminati, you're going to see it everywhere. If you're looking for police always up in your business, every time you see it, you're going to be reminded, oh, they're always up in my business. But if it's just passing by, and you're like, oh, it's another police car, it's a different story. It doesn't just, you log the event differently.
We're going to take a break. 721-1290 Center. I want you to hear one more thing when we come back, and then we can move on to something else. But Emily Withnall was talking about domestic violence, and she brought up some really disturbing stuff. So when we come back, we'll play that, and then we'll move on. So give us a call, 721-1290, if you'd like to comment, and we'll be back.
I would just like to hear if you agree or disagree with their positions. Give us a call, 721-1290.
This is a talk show, and we're here to talk, so we'll be back. And now I really understand why they didn't want any police on the panel.
I think that, though, they did really do. I think they lowered the bar for what the meeting could have been, in my opinion, by not having police. Because I think you would have heard a different point of view. Who do we protect? I think you would have humanized the police a little bit.
I hope
Maybe
so.
They don't want that.
I hope so.
Thanks for calling KGVO. This is John. Okay. We'll get you out shortly.
See, I find myself in a difficult situation sometimes when I go to these things, and I am a conservative talk show host, but I'm also a newsman, okay? And so when I go to an event like that, I keep my mouth shut, okay? And I find out what they think and how they feel, and report it.
Yes, sir. We'll get you on shortly, okay? All right.
So anyway, that's just my deal.
You just don't talk?
Well, no, I basically say, may I have permission to record? And I just sat and listened, you know. They weren't asking for questions from the audience, so, you know. But I really felt very profoundly that it wasn't my place to speak at that point. They had their piece to speak, and let them speak it, you know.
Well, it wasn't like an interview. It was.
I know that, but I think in many ways, what happened with the folks on that panel was very cathartic, not only for them, but for the people in the audience that were much more in that group.
Sure.
And so, anyway, I think they probably felt somebody finally is saying what they've been thinking,
what they feel,
but they didn't have an opportunity to. So anyway, so agree or disagree. Here we go. Hey, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Talkback. I'm Peter Christie. That's John King. Let's get to the phones, and Mike is up first. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know what this kid was, what you talk. I just come in on his late, except when we're talking about police. And here's the setup, because okay, I'm driving down the road and I'm goofing off. I'm wobbling around the road down here by Fort Missoula. I'm looking at all the nonsense they got down there. Anyway, deputy sheriff pulls me over, and this woman walks up, a nice enough gal. I didn't appreciate my sheriff's joke, but anyway, here's the deal. She don't write me a ticket, doesn't do a damn thing, but I get a deal in the mail that says, here you are, now you've got a hell of a fine, because every year you have to have an eye test and take a driver's test every year, because it says on your driver's license you're 80 damn years old. Now, I don't have a problem with that if everybody has the same thing, but there is no standard test. This woman just walked up, seen what I had on my driver's license, and said, no, I don't think nonsense I got to put up with. And this is happening to all the old people. It is age discrimination, pure and simple. Now, she could have wrote me a ticket for wobbling down the road. That wouldn't have been a problem. I'd agreed with her. However, I sure as hell don't agree with having to pay an eye doctor $100 and some bucks every year to get my eyes tested and take a damn driver's license every year.
Let me ask you this. Knowing how humans age, do you feel that there is...
He's staring right at me.
There's no other options.
Go ahead.
Don't you believe there is a risk as you get older that you have a deterioration in vision?
Yes, and don't you believe there are other people who have deteriorations in vision?
Absolutely.
And there should be a standard test. If they're going to pull me over, then they're going to say, here's a test. I want you to tell me what this says. And they should do the same to you or anybody else they pull over, because just because you're 30 years younger or 40 years younger doesn't mean you can see any better than I can. I can see pretty damn well, thank you.
Absolutely. So you're saying you think the police officer or the sheriff's deputy should get their ophthalmology degree and be able to...
No, they should have a standard test that everybody goes through. And I talked to the eye doctor. How many of these you get on these old people? He said, a hell of a bunch of them. And he's making lots of money off them, because every year you have to go in and pay him $100 to tell you can read the chart. Now, there should be a standard test, and I don't object to that, as long as everybody is under the same law.
Now, you just wanted to be fair, right?
That's what I want to be, as fair.
Right.
But no, it's unfair as hell to me, because I have to go to Polson to get a driver's test. Because these people down here don't like me at all. When I told them, if you're not going to take walk-ins, put a damn sign out and say we're not taking walk-ins today. We don't get along all that well with these dingbats up here in Missoula, believe me.
All right, Mike, we got to move on.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay, but now, I'll bet you what. I'll bet you they won't stop John, but they might stop you. You're getting so dadgum old. I'm not sure you know which way to get in the car anymore.
I can't hear you.
Okay,
thanks.
Yeah,
thanks, Mike.
It's the pot calling the kettle gray.
Hey.
No.
All right, Marilyn, go ahead.
Good morning. So I heard the news that the gal on the news last night talking about this Missoula Rises meeting, and I thought, I'd love to go to that,
You should have come.
Fly on the wall. Well, I'm a little incapacitated these days.
I'm sorry.
One of these days I'll be back at it.
Well, I tell you what, if you go to our website, if you can find a computer.
I don't do the internet. Hallelujah.
Okay.
I'll figure it out from somebody else. But I heard enough of her. I took notes while you were playing the audio.
Okay.
And I kind of know where these people are coming from before even hearing that audio. Okay, first of all, ACLU, we need to remember that the ACLU was founded by a communist. That's for real. Look it up. And they've continued that communist string, whatever. Okay, so I hear so much white racism going on these days that it really, wow. Anyways, nobody talks about that. But I guess they want everything to be equal. So they don't, when they talk about that we're not created equal under the law, I keep thinking about, are they going to God's law? According to God and his creation of us, which they have just evolution. We're all came from monkeys. But then HRC Hillary Rodham Clinton, has she had privilege granted to her? The law hasn't been equally applied to her. And I'd like years. I hope to God someday that the law is actually equally applied to her. Another thing, when they talk about the classes, that's Marxist. That's a Marxist term. Another thing, okay, this was my main point, actually, why I called. Out in front of the abortion clinic, when I would stand there, the police would come and try and get me off the public sidewalk because they were there to protect the abortionist, not the baby whose life was actually going to soon be ended, or the woman who could be maimed, sterilized, murdered in that place, or mobbed.
No,
done away with.
When all of them were done having their say, they got together in groups and had discussions. So you would have had a chance to say your piece.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Well, you would have. All right, we got to run.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for the call. Hey, Dave, if you don't mind, I've got to take a break here. I want to give you plenty of time to make your point. John's on the phone right now. We have two other lines open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309, or you can make your comments on our Facebook page. We'll be right back.
Joe says, good morning from Hollywood, Peter. Joe McNeil?
Oh, Joe McNeil, yeah.
You know Joe?
I know Joe. He's a former cop, in fact.
Oh!
Former sheriff's deputy.
Well, that's perfect.
Hollywood.
Well, who did you serve and protect, Joe?
Hollywood.
Elena is quoting, not 1984, quoting Animal Farm.
Okay.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. 4 legs better than 2 legs.
I've always said so.
Joe says he was a deputy sheriff.
But now he's a sought-after actor in Hollywood. He's actually has a part in a series that's going on.
He's a what?
He has a part in a series that's I think he plays somebody in law enforcement. So.
Oh.
So it's typecasting there, big fella.
If only they had a lot more roles for idiot radio show hosts. I might have a shot.
Sitcoms about radio shows. Not since WKRP in Cincinnati. Or Frasier. Oh, yeah, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Facebook, John.
Mary says, police are sworn to uphold the law. Do they have some leeway? Yes, in some cases. Many of our laws have dramatically changed since the beginning of their nation, some for the better and some for worse. Important and amazing things about the United States, as opposed to many other nations, is that the people can change the laws. Each individual person has a right to vote for representatives who are expected to do the will of people electing them. Our nation is far from perfect. Our government representatives are far from perfect, but there is not another nation on earth where individual freedom is so evident. Jeannie says, Marilyn mentioned that one reason the governor objected to the internet access at rural areas is to curtail rural business, thus forcing people to move to the cities, and puts in parentheses, Agenda 21. If you drive around Missoula, you will notice another aspect of this, and that's all the apartment buildings right next to the street. This is to curtail driving and to get people onto buses. Possibly also that people that buy houses don't want to buy them right next to busy streets?
Possibly. All right, let's get Dave on the line. Dave, thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good morning. It's amazing to me how people are so quick to judge, prior to trials and the law actually taking effect.
Yeah.
I thought we were all innocent until proven guilty.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And, I've called Donald Trump a pervert, but, I believe he told me he was. And so I think he earned the title. And, it's not a crime to be a pervert, but, and Hillary, if she's found guilty of some crime, she should go to jail. I mean, I think we're just all too quick to jump ahead of the laws.
Now, one of the things that they talk about in the speech or in the speeches that I heard is that police officers and sheriff's deputies, law enforcement in general, dispenses the law, not necessarily looking at the person. But in my instances of the law being handed out to the person, I feel like it was given out unequally. Let me give you a quick example. When I was in college, my wife, who I did dearly love, was let off of getting a ticket multiple times, at least 4 times while I was in the car. We would be driving, she would be speeding or breaking some other traffic law, and then get pulled over, and she would cry. Now, she's going to hate me for talking about this, but whatever. Because no grace was ever extended to me, the guy. When I would get pulled over, of course, I didn't cry. I did sit there awkwardly, not knowing where to put my hands, just like holding them up. But, I watched her multiple times get, hey, next time you're going to get in trouble or get a warning or whatever. And I thought to myself, it just seems so unfair. Like, she's definitely getting a more human treatment than
Wait a minute. What were you doing during all this time?
I was the passenger.
I know, but
I was too poor to own a car.
why didn't you speak up and say, officer, you wouldn't treat me that way. Give her a ticket. For crying out loud.
We weren't yet married. Maybe now I'd have the go.
Okay, I got you. All right. So I'm sorry, Dave. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that. And I had an incident happen to a friend of mine. My sister-in-law was driving her car. She had a taillight out. The policeman stopped him. The passenger in the car was drunk. And he stuck his arms out the window, and the policeman, he didn't respond quick enough when the policeman said, put your arm back in the window, and he was pulled over. He was slammed on the ground and charged with resisting arrest. So, I mean, you can get into a situation where it gets worse and worse. And, police, I think police need to think about, they serve us. They serve even him, the drunk guy on the car. And they're not there to prevent crime, but they're certainly not there to create crimes either.
All right, Dave, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Tim is up next. Tim, thanks for holding. You're on, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, anyway, sorry. My problem with this whole is that last person that you, the last person that you played, he took zero personal responsibility for any of his actions. He blamed everything on the cops.
I think that if you re-listen to it or if you listen to the extended comments, he says, I did commit crimes. And he says, I take responsibility for the crimes I committed. But he also goes at length in kind of discussing some of the times he was charged in cases where he wasn't actually guilty. And
okay.
so for those instances, I mean, I wouldn't take responsibility for crimes I didn't commit personally. And I don't think that we should force him to either.
No. Well, and I'll give you an example of mine. It's just like, I mean, I live over here in Billings now, but I mean, I'm 42 years old, and I grew up in Missoula my entire life. Did you know I was personally pulled over by the Missoula County Sheriff's Department 23 times from the time that I was around 16 till the time I was probably around maybe 25. I was pulled over 23 times just by the Missoula County Sheriff's Department alone.
Why?
And for all kinds of various reasons. Most of the time it was because of a taillight out or something that they gave them a reason to pull me over. And it just, and it was one of those things where I don't blame the cops because of the fact that they were actually doing their job. It was frustrating for me at the time because it was wasting my valuable time. And it was difficult, but like in most of the time, I would end up getting a ticket for not having a proof of insurance. I actually always had insurance every single time. I just didn't have my updated card in the card. So what I end up having to do is to go get a copy of the card, go down to the courthouse with my current thing showing that I had proof of insurance. I walked out the door with no ticket because of the fact that I actually had it. It was my fault because of the fact that I didn't put the personal card in the car. And that I got tickets for that probably around 10 different times that I did that. And every single time the excuse that I got pulled over was for a taillight or a headlight or something. And it was my responsibility to take care of that, which I did end up doing. But like I said, I was terrible about getting the card from the mailbox into my car. Terrible about it.
All right.
I deserved the ticket, and I got it.
Thanks for the call.
Anyway.
Appreciate it, man. All right, thank you. Mark, Craig, and Hunter, we're going to get you guys on. Interesting conversation. We have a line open. 721-1290, and we haven't even played the Cup with Emily yet. So anyway, we're going to come right back with more of Talk Back in a moment.
Who is going to watch the Super Bowl? John, Peter, I have been invited to go to a Super Bowl party.
As have I.
I will be attending.
But I'll probably sleep through it.
I will be cheering on the Oregonian Octopi, whatever team made it this year. I'll be indulging whatever food there is there and trying to get people to play board games with me most likely.
I think the Super Bowl should be played the Sunday after the championship games. Get it over with. We're done. Why do you have these 2 weeks of unending stupidness? You know, before the Super Bowl.
Isn't it to kind of build up hype and get the stadium ready?
Do you need the hype? It's the Super Bowl, for crying out loud.
Well,
you don't need the hype. You've already got the hype.
You've got all the branding and the merchandising and the two teams. You don't know exactly who it's going to be. You don't want to make all that junk for teams that aren't there. Obviously, they delay it. I think that the obvious reason they delay it is to make more money off of it.
Well, of course they do. I just think it's stupid. Because I don't own a team.
As last I checked, the Oregonian Octopi was still a team.
They're still open.
Could,
They're still open. I'm sure I could.
You could secure that one.
Okay, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. Folks are waiting on the phone. Let's jump right back here and say good morning to Mark. Hi, Mark. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thanks for checking the call. Great show, great topic, and I love you guys. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thanks for the compliment.
Well, I agree with John in the point that he made about how we look at police officers and the law. It depends on where we're at ourselves in our lives. You know, when I was 67, when I got back to Nam, I got in some serious trouble. I didn't care for the cops much then. Now I like to see them because I know that, you know, that they're there basically to protect us. But we're talking about human nature here, and cops are just people. And as far as supporting the ruling class, well, of course they're going to do that. What are they supposed to do? Go against the people that gave them jobs? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But it's really about human nature. It's about money, power, and what do those things lead to? Control. For the human being, it's all about control. That's the apex of those three things. And we all want to control our situation, obviously, protect ourselves, our families, and our friends, and our fears of influence, you know. But my final point is this. The powerful cannot control backroom deals or whatever they did. In the end, they're going to go. They're going to pass on. And I don't wish them any evil or anything, you know, for that. But just through nature, they're going to pass. So,
question for you, Mark.
Yes.
You talked about your shift in perspective, and this is something that has hit home to me recently. I've dealt with a number of young ladies that have recently had issues of abuse, things like that, and they have been resistant to go to law enforcement to try to ameliorate the situation that they're in. And my question for you is, I guess, what caused the shift in your perspective of law enforcement as being a negative to a positive?
I became a law-abiding citizen. I became a contributing member of society. Of course it's going to shift. You know, when I was young and dumb, I made a lot of mistakes, you know, and I take full responsibility for those. And when I saw a police officer, you know, it was a very negative, you know, I was trying to get out of the way. But now, you know, it's a different perspective now as your age, of course, you know.
Sure.
And
hey, thanks for your call, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. All right, let's grab my headphones here.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that cross applies at all to their situation. Like, these ladies, as far as I know, aren't criminals of any kind. But yet they have this perspective that law enforcement isn't there for them.
Right.
Or that it would only make the situation worse.
And that was part of the discussion last night. And with my experience with Kirsten Pabst and the whole Special Victims Unit and what has happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years here in Missoula with when the civil rights people came and the Department of Education and the Department of Justice lowered the boom on Missoula, basically here's an example. Here's what's going to happen to you, that sort of thing. I think the changes that were made to help support women who are in those situations, I think they're very positive, and I'm hoping that people will say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and trust these folks to keep us safe and to keep us from being harmed again. So anyway, at least that's just my perspective for what it's worth. Craig, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. Say, briefly, I'd like to make a comment about the boo-hooing before I make my comment. But anyways, my boys had a buddy of theirs, and this guy was a character, but he got pulled over, and he started bawling, faking it, of course, but he got off his ticket. Anyways, nonetheless, I want to talk about Hillary and intent.
All right.
You know, I don't know. I think I'm reasonably understand the laws and stuff, but if you're talking about intent or something, you know, you can't break an entry. But if somebody's house on fire, you can knock down that door and go in there and save lives. And your intent wasn't to burglarize it, so you don't get hooked for it.
Well, and intent matters in other things. Like even if you're speeding and you got a woman giving birth in the back seat,
that's right.
There's a different approach to you.
That's right.
Theoretically.
But I've never been asked about intent. And I'm certain that if I told the judge I didn't mean to, it wouldn't count. But I've never heard anybody getting off for violating, especially what Hillary did, because they didn't mean to. It's just ridiculous.
I hear you. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Hunter is up next. Hi, Hunter. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, you know, I mean, what makes the system and the laws unfair is it's the individuals in the power seat that abuse their power of authority by fabricating an incident. And, you know, prosecutors do this as well. And just going back to John's example of, you know, his wife or girlfriend at the time crying, while being pulled over. I mean, when, you know, the police officer or the prosecutors fabricate an incident, it's hard to, as, you know, citizens of society, to argue or fight against those fabrications because they're using every law or pointing fingers that they can to shut down their argument so they would win. So that's
let me ask you a question, because this does go to the heart of our justice system. If we can't trust the justice system at that level, like if you actually believe all these crimes, or that many crimes are falsified, that people are put in jail that aren't guilty, then it would definitely disrupt a vision of law enforcement. So how often do you think this happens?
I would say it happens more than we think, and yeah. I mean, I'd say probably like 75%, 75 to 80%.
Now, why do you think? What kind of checks and balances in the system do you think should be there that aren't, in order to prevent something like that from happening?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about criminal cases, then, you know, I mean, there has to be, you know, probably a discovery panel where an outside investigation goes and actually talks to the suspect or the person who's been committed of a crime and really go through the detail. And that's how you're going to figure out where the fabrications happen.
Now, we do have a contrarian justice system. And when you go, obviously, when you're getting arrested, there's not two parties there. But when you get to court, you have your own defense.
Exactly. And so see, and I say where you're going with this, but you have to understand that defense lawyers and prosecutors, they all work for the same side. They're both officers of the court. And I'm going to retract my statement there, because not I, but then there's a case that hopefully comes to light here in the near future that, you know, prosecutorial misconduct happened because the defense purposely violated their code of ethics by not, you know, following the code of ethics and defending the defendant because they had personal thoughts and issues probably in the case, and allowed the prosecutors to violate their job or do over it.
So what I hear you saying, Hunter, is that in this particular case, both sides of the justice system broke down.
Well, and then I would say, if you're getting a misconduct charge, that's showing that the system does have some white blood cells to correct a problem, even if it's internal.
Exactly. It's all internal. I mean, if we're talking about justice system being a flaw here, then it's all internal, because one, it's job security for everybody, you know, and so that's just where it is. It's all internal. But how are we as citizens to prove that? And the only people who can prove that are these individuals who are being charged with these crimes, and they go through their case. But then are as we have seen, are people going to listen to these people because they've already been painted with a guilty face?
Hunter, we got to take a break. Thanks for the call.
good.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it. All right, Jenny, Emmett, and Kevin, we're going to get you guys on. We have about 8 minutes left in the show. It's been a great discussion, and we'd love to hear some more from you. We have one line open. Be right back.
We're going to have to go through those quick. Yeah. By the way, we had a meeting yesterday.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. All that we went over, some big things. So, corporate isn't tracking our YouTube views anymore.
Okay.
But we're supposed to just kind of keep doing what we've been doing.
Okay.
But so that's, I guess, easier. Our goals this year are, I think, fairly easy to hit, easier than many of the goals we've had in the past. It's not like a crazy spike.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay. We got about 6 minutes left in the show. Let's jump right back to the phones. This is Jenny. Hi, Jenny. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hi. I just had a couple of short comments. One, I think a panel discussion such as the one that you attended last night, I don't want to use a word as harsh as invalidated, but that's the word I'm going to use, because they didn't have any law enforcement present on the panel. So all it is a gripe session, and there's no one there to say, well, you know, this is why we do things the way we do. And the other comment I wanted to make is somebody had talked about protecting the law instead of protecting the people, and the laws are put in place to protect the people. So if law enforcement can't change the law, their function is to uphold the law. If you want the laws changed because you think they're not fair, then that has to go through a legislative process. Those are my comments.
All right. Well,
Thanks for your call, Jenny.
Thanks for the call, Jenny. Very well said. All right. Let's get Emmett on the line. Hi, Emmett. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. Well, you know, I think it really depends on where you live and the town that you live in, because I've never been harassed by any of the police officers here in Missoula. I seem to get along with them for the most part pretty well. But I was trying to move back to Lewiston, Idaho in 1998, because I used to love it there, and I don't know why the Lord has me here in Missoula. But I had my mohawk and my leather jacket, and I don't have a car, so I was walking everywhere to get groceries or do whatever, find a job, whatever. I was stopped by the Lewiston, Idaho police 2 times and carded to see if I had warrants just because I was a punk rocker. So they're profiling me. They're very yuppified in Lewiston, Idaho, and that's really changed. And the police, I think, even have changed over there, because I was still back there a few years ago, even further than that, and I had a goatee and semi-long hair, and the police did nothing to me at that time in Lewiston, Idaho. But I guess it really also depends, you know, where you live and what type of police department you have in that particular town.
All right. Thanks for your call. And I think there's absolutely truth to that. You know, the police departments in big cities just seem to operate differently than police departments in small towns or sheriff's departments. You know, it just, there is a different kind of ethos, even though you'd think a lot of the laws would be similar.
Yeah. All right. 721-1290 is our number. Let's get Kevin on the line. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, just to let everybody know, in case a lot of your listeners aren't aware of this, if you do get pulled over by law enforcement, chances are not only are they documenting everything that they're saying to you via voice and video recording,
they've got
but also,
they've got body cameras on.
In Missoula? No,
Yeah.
they don't.
Yes,
Really?
they do.
And
Yes,
but
they do.
Some of those units could be a live feed to their superiors. And if they don't do their job, they get it from their superiors too. So no more crying. I'm sorry, you can't be crying when you get pulled over. That's chances are they've been trained not to do that, fall for that.
The
and,
Kirkland, Washington Police Department does not receive this memo, or at least they didn't 15 years ago.
All righty, I just thought I'd let you guys, everybody know you're being recorded.
Thanks for your call. All right, I remember. A highway patrol trooper told me once, Washington highway patrol trooper, had a chance to visit with one.
All right.
And they probably are among some of the most imposing. Their uniforms are designed to be some of the most imposing So when that individual gets out of that car and walks up to your car, the way they carry themselves, the way they're dressed and outfitted, the whole idea is this is authority speaking. Okay, this is the law of the state of Washington talking to you, and so you need to be alert. You need to be respectful. You need to answer the questions.
See, that's the same kind of thing I'm looking for with this disheveled T-shirt. It's a kind of maybe I just need
at
to
least that's what I was told.
ship shape a little bit.
So if I'm off base, then that's fine. But anyway, that's why I was always very polite. Thank you very much. Mark, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. I have 3 points. All right. No, one, as far as Missoula Rising goes, I have no respect for those people whatsoever.
Why not?
Because I think that they have an agenda, and I think they're going to push something with this law enforcement routine that they've developed. And I think everybody needs to be awake and be ready for it because it's coming.
What do you think their agenda might be?
Possibly to take down the police department in a similar way that Black Lives Matter has done across the country.
All right. Well, thanks for the call.
Well, he had 2 more points. I think.
I'm sorry. You had 2 more points. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 of them. The third one was the statistics. Where did the statistics come from? These people always seem to throw these out, but they have no substantiation for them.
What statistics are you referring to?
The ones where the police were beating up their wives?
Oh, I actually did try to do a little bit of research on that, and I could not find the original surveys myself.
It was called, was it Police Wife?
Something like that.
Study like Police Wife.
We have the cut, but it's too long to play at this point in the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call.
Where are the statistics for the Missoula officers?
Good question. All right. Thanks for the call. We have 30 seconds, Joe, quickly.
Yeah, so when the TSA checks people, they're not allowed to profile. But as we know, people from certain countries have been more likely to present the threat of terrorism. So anyway, discretion is an issue that has always been a problem for the police. So they want to enforce the law strictly without using any discretion, but really, I think it's impossible to remove discretion.
And we're out of time. Thanks for the call. Open phones tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll talk about the State of the Union.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.